Welcome to the Elements of Success podcast with Johnny Dawson. This is the show that will inspire you to uncover your formula for success so you take charge of your story, overcome life's obstacles, and find fulfillment in all branches of life. With Johnny as your guide, you will break down the science of success and experiment with how you can combine key elements to uncover discipline you need to accelerate your journey towards prosperity. Now, on to today's episode.
Welcome to the Elements of Success podcast, where we will explore traits that have helped others achieve success. Our hope is to inspire you to discover your own element of success. Today, we're joined by my co-host, Eric Johnson, and along with my guy, Johnny Dixon, in town from AZ. And Eric, what's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm wondering how that travel went from Arizona all the way to where you're at.
Not too bad. Kind of getting used to it. We actually went to Florida last week, so that trip was way worse. So not too bad.
Well, glad you're here, man.
And Eric, I'm extremely pumped for this episode, and really to give some of our listeners a background. And it's a man that needs no introduction. So Johnny was from Ohio State, Buckeye national champion, and recently signed with the Dallas Cowboys, which instantly made me become a fan overnight. And father too, and just one of the best people I've ever had the privilege of knowing. So it's truly a pleasure to have you on the show, Johnny, and thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. And I figured, we make this hard enough on Eric as it is. Let's just go ahead and have two Johnnies on the show at the same time and see how that works.
And he's a Cowboy? I mean, come on now. I mean, I'm a Seahawks fan, and my wife is a diehard Cowboys fan, and so our house is already in turmoil, and now I got to tell her that I had the pleasure of speaking to you today. So
ain't nothing wrong with a divided house, huh?
That's right. Yeah, it's fun around football time, I'll tell you.
Oh, man, I know it's bad on Sundays.
Yes, it is. Yes, sir. So when I'd asked Johnny, I said, hey, what element of success defines you and who you are as a person? I already kind of knew where he was going to go with his answer, and he immediately said resilience. And I said, yep. I said, I know. I said, resilience isn't just your element. It's honestly who you are as a person. And the resilience that you show throughout your life, throughout sports, throughout everything you do is truly amazing. And to give our listeners an idea, because we're going to dive into this definition and how Johnny applies it to his life, resilience is defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. And one of the words within that definition that we're going to circle back to is capacity. And because I feel that is a very important part of that definition. So Johnny, let me ask you this. When you think of resilience and the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness, why does that element or that definition stand so strong with you?
I would say, going throughout life, no matter who you are, you're going to go through things. And it's not about, the things you go through. It's about, how you overcome them. What is your coping, mechanisms to, get through all of that. So, I think it's, just the ability to have to go through things and, just finding a way to, get through them. And it's crazy because a lot of the times it's just not going to be, by yourself. It's going to be the people you're around, the
Right.
people you associate yourself with. So, I think it's very important to be, a resilient person because no matter who you are, you're going to go through something.
Mm-hmm. And even playing football at Ohio State, those were probably some of the greatest times of your life, and I would be willing to bet some of the most difficult and challenging times of your life too.
Yeah, I would say, just most of the guys that go to Ohio State are highly recruited. Wherever they come from, they're probably the man, let's be real. So you go to Ohio State and everybody's the man. So it's basically just starting back over from, step one. So, just, coming in and just knowing that you're going to be the small pup no matter what,
Right.
No matter what it is.
Right. And that environment, once you get in that environment and you guys start feeding off each other, you individually start to build in traits of who you are, characteristic-wise, leadership-wise, and just knowing the story of injuries and overcoming that and even coming back stronger over the time, that resilience to continually feel like, okay, I'm up against another hurdle or difficulty, and here's my point of origin where I need to be, but at the same time, I may not have the energy or feel like doing this. And that's when you got to dig deep and try to dive in there and say, okay, how do I muster up the ability to get over these mountains that just keep standing right in front of me? So when you kind of went through that, and what I want to ask you is, when you first discovered your resilience, did it come from an event? Was there a specific moment where you're like, man, I don't know what I need to do to get through this, but I got to find something? When was that situation, and how would you describe it?
Well, I would say, just throughout my whole life, just knowing where I come from and, what I've been through, I kind of built it up, throughout life. But, when you're younger, you don't really know. Right. So, when you get older and, you go through things, like I said, many people that know my story know I missed, basically my first 3 years of college ball. And, right. And I actually, quit for maybe a week or two. And I would say when I really discovered it is just when I was sitting home every day and I'm like, man, I'm not lifting today, just got class. I'm like, this is weird. Yeah. I'm like, I don't really like this life of just, being home and, nothing wrong with having a regular job, but like, that's like the path that, right. I was going to get to eventually. So right. I was like, you know what, let me give this thing one more shot, one more shot at it, why not? And, like I said, I had good people in my corner. So right. they pushed me to actually go back and give it another try. And I'd say that's why I really built it, mostly because just going back and not knowing, what would happen. I could possibly get injured again and, really be done. So I would say just going back and, giving it another try. Right. Was really why I really found it.
And I think that's a key point that I want to kind of dive in there is, if we go back to the definition, the definition is the capacity to recover. It doesn't really say that you need to recover quickly to have resilience. It's having the capacity, the mindset to say, look, if you never lose until you quit. You never fail until you quit. Once you quit, now you've made that permanent. And that's why capacity is so important in that definition, because you do have the capacity, the mindset to say, I don't care what lies in front of me. I don't care how many people or what I've got to go through to get to my goal, but my goal is to play long-term in the league no matter what. Come hell or high water, it's going to happen. And you have that capacity without a shadow of a doubt to be resilient no matter what the situation is. And we talked about, Eric, you probably remember this. Let me ask you this, Eric. When we talked about Bruce Lee and the cup of water, do you remember on that podcast kind of what was the analogy that we were using there?
Remind me.
So Bruce Lee always said, you want to be like a cup of water. It's fluid. So if you put water in a glass, it becomes a glass. If you put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. And resilience is a part of that fluidness, that even if there's an adversity, a difficulty, a situation that just doesn't go your way, having the mindset, AKA the capacity to say, no matter this situation, I'm going to bust through it. And you've done that time and time and time and again. And I feel it's amazing. Your story kind of has a lot of parallel and a lot of different avenues of life that even my life growing up faced, with our moms being a huge influence and part of our life. And Johnny and I were talking about this on the drive up here, but the resilience that our moms had even growing up to raise us and be supportive of us no matter what, even though we didn't know what was happening behind the curtain, it really created resilience in our own lives at a young age, and we never even realized it. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. Like last night when we were listening to, Dear Mama, when Tupac came on, I would say that's like my mom never showed any weakness, growing up. And of course, we see it, we know that they're going through things, but they never show any weakness. And I think that helps us, throughout our years. You see mom struggling so much, and you're like, man, how does she does it? Like, how does she do it every day? Right. She's just battling, and you never know what's going on, but you see that she's pushing, and that helps you, down the line. And yeah. I would say that's another big thing that helped me. Just, she probably never know, but like, she just pushed me. It motivates me just to, see her story. And even like when we sit down and talk about, the old days and things like that, it always just motivates me to want to do more.
Because it reminds you of my mom gave up so much just to get me, through high school, and then from high school it was kind of on me. Like, I either had to make something happen or go in the Marines, and I went in the Marines, and you too, you had to make something happen and go to Ohio State.
Yeah.
And it's through those avenues that we can look back and say, Mom, we know you struggled, but you helped us learn how to use resilience in our own struggles that we have now.
Absolutely. Like you said, like even in high school, we actually moved from a really nice house to like a little beat down house, just so I can go to a certain school, and just seeing that her give up things like that, just so that I can be able to live out my dream and possibly get to where I am at today.
Right.
Like you never know if you're going to make it this far in life, with football and just things that you've been through, but like it's just the moms are the big motivational pieces. And
absolutely,
it's very helpful.
Yeah, and another good important part that I think that kind of pours over into that definition of resilience as well, as you mentioned, having a support system around you.
Absolutely.
And when you go through a difficulty, whether it's an injury, a lost job, a setback, whatever it may be, death, if you isolate yourself and you put yourself in a particular box or a situation where you don't want help, but you're not seeking for help either, it just compounds the problem.
And I got to a point of that when I actually gave up a little bit. Just being by myself every day is weird. You're around the guys every day, all day. If that's at practice, study hall, class, you're always around the guys. But just being isolated, it wasn't for me. And that's when I got out, seeking help from the guys. And that's where I really saw how great my support system was. And another big thing that helped push me through.
Mm-hmm. And it's that support system, though, it almost becomes a part of your, let's call it your athletic DNA, to where you need them to vibe off each other.
Yep.
And it's crazy because the Marines was kind of the same way. In fact, we had a guy in our squad. I'm not going to mention who it is because he's seeking a political career right now. So we'll just keep that to ourselves. But he decided he was done. And in the Marines, you can't just say I'm done, I quit.
Exactly.
And so I helped him change his oil in his car. We rotated his tires, and he was gone. He was going to drive wherever he was going to drive. He wasn't coming back. And he made it about 20 miles and called me, and he's like, I got to come back, man. He's like, I can't let y'all down, is what he said. And there's a lot of weight because now it ain't just me anymore. It's all of us.
Exactly. And that was another big thing. Like I say, when I came back, it was a lot of young guys. It was me, Paris, and Terry. And I was basically feeling like I was leaving Paris and Terry to, hold down the whole group by herself. And I'm like, that's just not me. That's not the person I am. So just, I had to be there if I was going to be playing or not. I just had to be there and, be another support system for the guy.
And that shows the character of who you are, too, because character isn't defined until your back's against adversity, and then that's when you start to see people's true character. Yep. When they're starting to face a little bit of stress, difficulty in their life, I mean, some ugly heads can raise up. But and this is not only I know this about you, but you're one of the best leaders that I've ever met as far as mental stability, encouragement, and showing that through your own life. This is how you can create resilience. This is how you can get over difficulties in your life. Look what I did. And for you to go through that, and not only that, but know, like, I can't let them down, and I've got to show my resilience to have that capacity to get through this.
And that's just a big thing. Like, just being able to go through that, and you just build all that up, and then you're able to dish it to other people. Like,
yep.
I don't know if I was this strong before the injuries and before I quit, but I know after all that and I came back, I was a totally different person.
Absolutely.
So now every time everybody see me, I'm always smiling. And
right.
Even if something's wrong, they will never know, just because, I've built that up. And,
yep.
I'm able to help other people when they're going through things.
Right.
So,
absolutely, man. So if you were to, let's say there's a kid or even a parent, somebody, and they're listening to this and they're like, my son, my daughter, myself has struggled with this difficulty, with this injury. I don't want to even do this anymore. Why am I even here? What would you tell them to encourage them to build their own element of resilience?
I would say, I know you probably hear this a lot, but really just finding your why.
Right.
Why you're doing it, and And I've never done, this football thing for just myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's for my mom, my brother, my kids now, my fiance. Just finding your why, why you doing it? What made you fall in love with it? And you didn't just fall in love with it just because it was another thing to do. You fell in love with it because you loved it. You enjoyed it. Just finding your why. Like when I was in college, like after all that happened, I was like, I told the people up front, like, can you please put a picture of, my family in my locker every game day, just so I can, I can see them and be motivated even more when I'm going out,
Right.
to do whatever we're doing. So find your why, man. Just find why you love to do what you do, and you chase that with all you got.
Right. One of the things that I do on occasion is when I know Johnny's getting ready to go into camp, or he's doing this workout, or he's doing something, I always send you a picture.
Yep, there's some good words on it every time.
And the picture, I overlaid it and put some text on it, and the picture basically says, "Remember why you started."
Yep.
And that picture, I believe it was the first time you were going to camp,
Yep.
and you were at the airport, and you were giving your
Uzziah.
daughter
Yep.
a hug, Uzziah.
Yep.
And she was an infant in that picture.
Yeah.
She's not an infant anymore.
No. Well, JD is.
Yeah. So
It's crazy, man. I just want to give them a better life than what I had when I was coming up.
Right.
And that's why I chase this thing so hard now. Like even when I didn't play all last season, I'm working out every day. I even
Every
started
day.
playing flag football. It's crazy.
Every day.
I'm just just trying to push and just give them a better life, and so they don't have to worry about anything.
Yep. And that's one of the things I love about you is you've always put others above yourself, even though you've had to get yourself out of the mud to get there.
Yep. And if I didn't go through anything or build up that resiliency, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to give people what they need from me at the end of the day. So, I'm glad I went through my struggles because they made me who I am.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. Eric, phenomenal show. What are some final thoughts, maybe some questions that you've kind of sparked interest in listening to Johnny's story of resilience?
Johnny, man, one thing that really, really stuck with me is when you talked about your mom. You said that she didn't show the struggles she was going through. And I know that as kids, we don't always understand those struggles. We don't always understand all the weight that are on our parents' shoulders. And now that you're a parent and you've been able to reflect and look back on what she did for you, provided for you, and the struggles she went through, what words of wisdom do you have for parents that are out there listening to this right now? Because Johnny's got a great audience that, they may be struggling, and they're struggling not to show their children, all the weight that's on their shoulders. What words of advice do you have for them?
I would say at the end of the day, just continue to be yourself. Be who you are. You brought the kids in. You was a certain person. Don't change that for no one. Just continue to push. I would say be the best version of yourself every day. Someone that your kids can look up to at the end of the day. And they say, I want to be like my mommy. I want to be like my daddy. So just continue to lead by example. If you have to hide those things that are going on, you do that. You do that to your best ability. Because like I said, kids know, but we don't fully know. So, it's all about how you present yourself to the kids and, I would say how they would react to, situations.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That is beautiful. I will say one other thing. Out of the last 5 meetings between the Seahawks and the Cowboys, Seahawks have won 4 times. And my wife, I'm being honest here. My wife, because I told her who we were talking to today, she said, "You better help that team out. You better help my team out," because she's tired of losing to the Seahawks. So you got your work cut out for you. Just letting you know.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna put my best foot forward, and any way I can help. That's what I'm here to do.
All right, right on, Mr. Johnny Dawson. Do you have any closing thoughts for today?
I would just say, for those listening to this, and we've talked about where you're at and the situation you're in doesn't have to be your permanent spot.
That's right.
No matter the mountain, the difficulty, the hill, the resentment you may have towards people or a situation, you have to at some point let that go and just start to build the capacity to move the needle forward.
Yeah.
And it's that needle that's going to keep building to where you have enough resilience to get all the way to the top of the hill and get over that hurdle. So no matter the difficulty, just push the needle a little bit further ahead. And maybe it's reaching out to someone that you haven't in a while and just having a conversation and get a little bit of motivation behind your situation and your personal story to create your own element of success. Johnny, it's always a pleasure to see you. I'm so glad you're in town, and thanks for spending time with us on the show today.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I love this. I love to do things like this.
Yeah,
for sure.
Johnny, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for just a wonderful show. But of course, our last thank you goes to you, listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Elements of Success podcast with Johnny Dawson. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Johnny comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at the Elements of Success, this is Eric Johnson asking you this. Do you have an example of resilience that you've gone through that you can draw off of when you have hard times, when you face that mountain? Do you have a memory of some time where you were resilient to help get you through? We'd love to hear from you. Johnny's all over social media. I know Instagram is one of the ways to reach him. I'm sure he's got Facebook and other things. Reach out. Tell us your story. We'd love to hear what you've gone through. And again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Elements of Success podcast. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. If you know anyone who would benefit from listening to this podcast, click the share button.